for our next segment, Casey and I are going to be going through some of the Power 5, the mid-majors of college basketball, and we're going to be picking their NCAA tournament champions, the conference tournament, of course, the ones that are going to get the automatic bid. So we're going to highlight some of the top teams in the country currently. Let's go ahead and start out with the American Athletic Conference. Obviously some really solid teams in there. Casey, who do you like?
I am going to go with Cincinnati. And that's mainly because Jerron Cumberland and Keith Williams are really solid players. And I just really think that Cincinnati's experience gets them past probably a better Houston team in this situation.
I'm actually going with Wichita State on this one. Yep, a little bit of an underdog, currently fourth in the American. They don't exactly have the star power that the Cincinnatis do, the Houstons do, but I trust Greg Marshall probably more than any other coach in that conference. I think they are still playing at a high level as a team, so I think Wichita State's going to get it done, get that automatic bid. All right, moving on to the Atlantic 10. Who do you got?
I really wanted to pick a sleeper here and pick an upset, but it's going to be Dayton.
Yeah, nobody's beating Dayton.
They have enough talent to maybe win the whole thing, and being a lower-end mid-major conference like the Atlantic 10, there's no team that can compete with them. Obi Toppin is the beast, best shooting team in the country at 52% field goal percentage. Very, very hard to stop this team inside the paint when they get going. I just don't see anyone beating them.
Yeah, I don't either. Again, Obi Toppin probably has more star power in his finger than pretty much any other player in that conference. He's been so incredible. You almost look at a guy like John Morant, obviously completely different play styles, but just at that smaller college that is just completely dominating and is one of the top college players of the year, not just in his conference, but out of anyone. So, yeah, I agree. Dayton's the obvious pick here. All right, but next conference, definitely tougher. You got the Florida States of the world, Louisville, Duke. Who do you like in the ACC?
I was leaning very hard Florida State. Leaning very hard. But I'm going to have to go with Duke. I mean, it seems like every single year that these guys, they're never a bad team. They're always a contender for the conference championship. And this year, they're just as good as Florida State. I think they're only trailing them in conference play by one game. Vernon Carey is a fantastic player. They're very good on the offensive glass. Team that shoots 47% from the field. 16th best in the country. I got to go with Coach K, even though I absolutely hate Duke.
I got to agree with you. I have Duke winning the ACC, but I think it's going to be tough just from a schedule standpoint because you're playing so many games in such a short span of time. And, if they do end up at, the 2 or the 3 seed in the ACC, then they're going to have to play possibly Louisville and Florida State back-to-back, which who knows what that'll look like. Obviously, whoever gets the 1 seed is going to have an easier time, assuming they'll end up playing like the 4 seed, who's Virginia right now. But I agree, Vernon Carey is probably the best player in that conference. Coach K obviously has been there multiple times, done this multiple times, and his record speaks for itself. So I think Duke's the pick here.
Yeah, the ACC it's not that good of a conference all the way down this year, but their top is they have a very good chance to have a representative in the Final Four from the ACC.
Yeah, it's hurting them having, North Carolina obviously struggling this year. Virginia's still good, but they're not anywhere near the level they've been for the last several years. Yeah, but all right, let's go ahead and move on to the conference that currently has the top 2 teams in the country, Kansas and Baylor, the Big 12. Who do you have there?
I'm going to go with Baylor. They have too much talent this year to lose the Big 12, I think. Kansas easily could get this done too. I'm not doubting them at all. So I would not be shocked to see Kansas win this. But Baylor is a very, very good team defensively. They hold opponents to 58 points per game, which is 3rd best in the country. Overall, I'm just saying defense wins championships, and I'm going to go with Baylor.
This was kind of a 50-50, almost a coin flip for me. I mean, obviously they split their regular season, Kansas and Baylor did, but when it comes to tournament games, I lean coaches and I lean players, the star talent. And, you look at Kansas, they have Devon Dotson and Udoka Azubuike. One of the best 1-2 punches in the country. Bill Self, again, one of the most prestigious coaches in college basketball. So I think Kansas is playing hot at the right time. I think they're going to need some scoring from another player outside of those two, which I think they will get out of maybe Garrett or someone like that in the tournament. So I'm going to go with Kansas.
That's a good move. I like that.
I mean, it was a pretty easy choice.
You flip a coin between those two.
Yeah. Getting to those two was easy. Picking between them was a little tougher. All right, going on to the Big East, you got teams like Creighton, Villanova, Seton Hall. Obviously, some of them having a great season. Who's your pick there?
I was actually going to lean Seton Hall just because I think that their talent and size is too much for the rest of the conference. I like Miles Powell a lot, but I'm going to go with Creighton here. And I'm going to say Creighton because of their ability to shoot the three, coupled with their defensive improvements from last season. It's just a recipe for a deep run in the conference tournament and probably a deep run in the NCAA tournament.
You know, Casey, this is almost getting boring how much I'm agreeing with you, but I also took Creighton. I think this might be Greg McDermott's best team. You know, obviously he had 4 years of Doug McDermott there, but as an all-around team, this has got to be one of his best, if not his best. You know, you look everywhere. They play great defense. Like you said, they can shoot lights out, especially when they're on. There are times where you watch Creighton, and I don't think they're ever going to miss. You know, I think if they get hot in the tournament, I think no one else really has a chance. I think Creighton's just playing at such a high level right now. I mean, you know, they just beat the lights out of a top 25 team by 30-plus at home the other day. I think when they're on, they're going to be tough to stop, and I expect them to keep on this hot streak.
Yeah, all the Husker listeners aren't going to be too happy about that one, but it is what it is. Creighton's very good. They're not. They are what they are this year.
You know, we have an opportunity to make it up to Husker fans right now, though, because we are picking the Big Ten winner. Casey, I know you have the Huskers. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Nebraska Cornhuskers here. They're going to go into this tournament with a losing streak, and they're going to win the whole thing out. No, I'm just kidding. All right, a real pick here. I'm going to go with Michigan State. They're very good defensively. Tom Izzo's teams always struggle early and figure it out late. It seems like every single year they have this problem. Maybe not as bad as this year, but most years they figure it out. They allow the 5th lowest field goal percentage in the country, and they're a very, very good rebounding team. If they can figure it out on the offensive end, maybe get some help for Cassius Winston, they could be dangerous in this year's conference tournament.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. Obviously, Cassius Winston's a great player, one of the best guards in the Big Ten currently. You know, I just picked Creighton, and now Husker fans are really not going to like me because I'm going with the Iowa Hawkeyes to win it. This is, again, another kind of underdog pick. Obviously, they're not among the top teams like the Maryland, the Penn State. You know, they're kind of in that Michigan State range a little bit, slept on, but can still definitely make a run. I think Luka Garza is just so good. You know, he's up there for National Player of the Year probably. He can easily get you 20 and 10 in these tournament games. I'm not sure how teams are going to slow him down. If some of the shooters around him can, you know, have some money games to help him out, because he's a walking bucket. You can constantly count on him. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to lead the Hawkeyes to a Big Ten championship.
So we're both completely sold that Mark Turgeon's Maryland is going to flop in this tournament, right?
Yeah,
I
would expect that. After last year in the NCAA tournament, I expect them to full on flop again.
They have so much talent. I just don't understand that team at all.
Yeah, they're just one of the ones that can never get past the hump. It seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the Mountain West. Who you got there?
You know, I got to go with San Diego State. They're very good defensive team, allowing some of the lowest shooting percentages in the country. Only one loss on the season to BYU. It's just with these mid-major and lower-end mid-major conferences, it's very hard to pick against a favorite and a team that's in the top 10 and top 5 right now. It's very hard to pick against them, so I'm going to have to go with San Diego State.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think their loss to UNLV was kind of a fluke a little bit. I don't think they should have lost that game, only lost by 3. You know, this is like Dayton. They're just far superior than everybody else in the conference. I can't imagine them losing.
So now we're going to move on to the Pac-12. Who do you have there? This one's a lot more wide open of a conference, I think.
This is an extremely tough conference. Like, you know, you got teams like Oregon up there. You got teams like Arizona still in it. You got just so many possible options in the Pac-12. Nobody has really blown me away, but there's really not anyone underwhelming. I mean, just looking at the standings here, you know, you got Oregon up at the top. You got Arizona State right up there. You got UCLA, Colorado, Arizona, USC, Stanford, and all of them are between 18-9 and 21-7 on the season. There's just so little discrepancy among those top 7 or 8 teams. Personally, I'm going to go with Oregon. I think they're just an extremely tough team. Nobody's beaten them at home this season. Obviously, that doesn't matter as much for a conference tournament, but I think that just kind of shows how mentally tough they are as a team, and that they know that they can get it done. So I personally like Oregon. Other than that, I really like Arizona with Nico Mannion. I think he's been great for freshman guard all season, but I'm leaning Oregon.
I was leaning Oregon earlier. I'm not gonna lie. Their offensive prowess is definitely some of the best in the country, and definitely top three in the Pac-12. But I don't know. I'm being from Buffalo. I'm gonna go with a former UB coach, Bobby Hurley, and I think his team, Arizona State, they've been on the bubble of the tournament a lot of years. They've made it in the final or the first four, and I think they get it done and get that bid and just get in right away. Don't have to mess around in the first
make
four.
it easy on them. All right, another one similar to the Pac-12. You got a couple teams that are kind of up there, but a lot of teams just solid overall. The SEC, who do you like there?
This one's also. I'm just gonna go with Kentucky. I'm picking a lot of favorites, but they have too much talent to lose it. I think Auburn, though, definitely has a possibility to overthrow them with how well they've played in the postseason the last couple years in college hoops. Other than that, I just think Kentucky has too much talent. They struggled early in the season, especially with that very, very bad loss to Evansville that got them flamed all over Twitter. But I think their talent is too much to overcome for some of these teams, so I think they're just going to win this SEC tournament.
Yeah, I agree with Kentucky. I mean, obviously Auburn has talent. LSU has talent. Kentucky's won 6 in a row. They're playing great basketball. They did actually just lose to Auburn at the beginning of the month, 75-66. But again, Coach Calipari, more talent than Auburn. Auburn's got to make it tough for them. LSU's going to make it tough for them. Florida's going to make it tough for them. But obviously, Kentucky has the most star power, the most talent, the best coach. I think they get it done again.
That's a good pick. What about in the West Coast Conference? Who you got out there?
West Coast is kind of tough too because you got Gonzaga, you got BYU, you got St. Mary's. Obviously, all those teams are tough, especially when you look at the West Coast, it almost always seems like number 1 Gonzaga, number 2 St. Mary's. And for this year, I'm keeping it that way. I'm going with Gonzaga. They've been top 5 almost all season. Just don't lose in that conference. Gonzaga. They make it look too easy out there. Some of these other teams are pretty good. St. Mary's is a good team. BYU is a good team, but I think Gonzaga is just going to walk over them.
Yeah, I have Gonzaga in this conference too. It's just too tough to pick when you look at scoring metrics and statistics, and you see a team out of 300 some or 400 some D1 college basketball teams that almost every one of their stats is in the top 15. It's just very hard to pick against them. They have the size, they have the speed, they have the skill to beat anyone in the NCAA tournament, and I think they're just going to walk right through this conference tournament.
Yeah, I think we're going to have some exciting conference tournaments. Casey, what overall conference tournament are you most excited to watch?
I think I'm going to go with the Pac-12. Not a couple of years the Pac-12's been down, but we talked about it earlier. There's some really skilled teams in the Pac-12 that are going to be fun to watch, and those when they finally narrow it down to like 4 teams, it's a crapshoot. So it'll be some really good basketball, I think. How about you?
Yeah, I think that one's going to be great. I'm personally leaning the ACC because if you get down to those final 4 teams of last year's national champs, Virginia, Florida State, Louisville, and Duke, I think those are going to be, 2 phenomenal semifinal game leading to a phenomenal final game. I think that's going to be probably, in my eyes, maybe one of the most exciting, especially because of the star power of the ACC and the different players a lot of them have. But, it should be fun to watch all around.
Yeah, it should be definitely a fun conference tournament season before the big dance, which could be the best ever.
All right, so that'll do it for our conference picks. Make sure that you tune into our next episode of Just Doing Our Cobb next week. We'll have another YouTube video for you.